back to another spaceexplr episode. We have a very special guest on today. I just had a little bit of chat before we started recording, get to know him a little bit. But of course, in this episode, you will get to know him a little bit more uh, throughout his personal journey, what he accomplished before, right now, future projects that he's working on. And his name is Brady Finn. So he's 27-year-old amateur astrophotographer from Tamworth, England. And everybody who is from surrounding area, maybe you're watching this episode, make sure to get in contact. And even you're from a different country, make sure to get in contact with Brady. He's been passionate about both space and photography for years, but this past year has given him the chance to learn and improve, which he loves to share all those learnings, improvements, and his personal work on Instagram, which you can find on FinnStargram1. By the way, great name. That is going to be included in the show notes and with the rest of the social media stuff. Brady, thanks again for coming over today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the invite, Martinez.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to connect, as I told you before, and because again, it's a great network, and we had the a little bit of talk about what's happening right now. It's a great time to be all over the place, and just like YouTube, or maybe you're listening this on a podcast. So can you tell about your personal message to the people? I mean, I got to I heard before we started recording, but just a little bit more to the people to understand where you're coming from.
Where I'm coming from?
Yeah, basically where you're coming from. I mean, where you're coming from, maybe it's an American American thing that I'm asking. Basically, where you're coming from, I mean, how did you ended up here being an astrophotographer?
Yeah, so, parents bought me a telescope when I was 14, 15, planetary telescope, hard to use at the time. But it got the passion, got the ball rolling. And then, seeing posts here and there on Reddit, things like that, seeing people create amazing things, it really makes you think, this is possible, I can do this, especially when you own a camera already. So yeah, it's nice to learn as you go and ask questions, and yeah, I've just been learning, picking things up from Reddit, from Instagram, from Facebook as well. Tend to ask a lot of questions on Facebook. I'm just working on what I'm doing at the minute. I wouldn't, when I say I'm amateur, I'm amateur. But I'm really just trying to up my game there.
Yeah. So, well, by looking at your personal work, I mean, on Instagram, and that's how we connected through Instagram. So that's one of the clues for people who are, here, that you should go in contact definitely with Brady personally and with the people. I mean, if you want to continue to learn personally, because there's a lot to learn, and I think Brady will see exactly the same. There's a lot. The learning curve is just infinite for astrophotography. But, when you look at your personal work, I wouldn't call it an amateur. And I don't know, I had people on the show, they're 50 years been involved with this, and they still call themselves an amateur. So, I mean, what makes a professional astrophotographer? I don't know. But again, I know that you do photography as well. So have you did photography before astrophotography, or that kind of, became your thing also at the same time?
Yeah, so I was doing a little bit of photography. When I was at university, I was basically the photographer for the snow sports society that I was in for a year. I was photographer for a year. So that really got me to grips with all the settings, and I got very comfortable with photography. And then from there, really, I started to find what I enjoyed shooting, and really really found my feet and my own style, I suppose. Yeah, definitely. In the past few years, I've really started to feel comfortable and find my feet with it. So I was definitely a photographer before astrophotography, because I was comfortable with photography, and then you put the camera on the scope or the tracker or however you start out, and the results are not what you expect at all. You see these amazing photos, and it's a bit of a rude awakening when you get that first photo off and you're like, what do I need to do here? But yeah, yeah, photography. I'm still going with photography. Not that we're getting much chance to get outside at the minute, but yeah, it's still a passion.
Yeah, and I mean it's unbelievable because I checked, you know, before we start talking, I checked the other account that you can find on Instagram, who_framed_fin, which of course in the show notes. I mean, it's beautiful. And again, you mentioned that you've been in Australia and it took all these colorful photos that you can see of the parrots and, you know, bugs and insects. I mean, it's very colorful and I mean, it's super nice. It looks, I don't know what, you know, again, what a professional photography looks like, but when I look at your photos, I think that's pretty much it, you know.
Oh wow, amazing!
So,
Thank you.
yeah, so that's a great job. So again, so talking about your personal kind of, you know, astrophotography journey, what would you recommend for the beginners? And of course, maybe you can kind of tell about your personal equipment that you maybe started with and working with, if it's the same or if it's updated, and what would you recommend for the beginners?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned, I started out with the a Celestron 127 SLT, which is a computerized alt-az mount. Not great for astrophotography in terms of deep space, but you know the scope itself is okay for planetary to an extent. So from there, I mean the alt-az mount, I couldn't get to grips with it. I ended up buying a tripod and a Star Adventurer, and I just put this scope on the top of there, and that's where it started. Obviously, after the scope, I connected my camera and saw what I could see. I'm in around a Bortle 6 here, so an unmodified camera. You know, I wasn't getting really the results that I was after, but you know, I saw a lot of people, Astro Backyard, mention he had an Astro modified DSLR, a 600D, which is the one that I went for as well. You know, as a lot of people do, I found based their first setups on Astro Backyard's steps, and I did that. And yeah, that's where I would say to start really. You know, if you go to a dark site, you can get some amazing shots with unmodified cameras. If you put in the work, but if you're like me, you know, bought all 6 and sometimes struggle with local light pollution, an Astro modified camera DSLR is definitely a good way to go, and a star tracker, of course, and work from there. So there's some people doing some amazing things with just very simple setups.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically it doesn't matter because we had previously on the show people who are taking astro photos from a balcony, from very high polluted, again, areas just like yourself. We're talking, you know, board to like 8 and 9, and you know, like it can get pretty intense, you know. But people are still, you know, doing the work, and I mean, it doesn't matter the conditions because a lot of people right now you can actually find a lot of people work. You know, like they're in London and they're taking photos like in the city of, you know, city of center, like, and that's doable. But again, like, can you talk about the pricing, you know, because I think it could be an issue for a lot of people. And first of all, when you talk about kind of updating and upgrading your personal camera, the main question, like, is that going to mess up your kind of day-to-day use camera? You know, could you still be able to use it, or?
Yeah, I see what you mean. I'll definitely say that with astrophotography can be an expensive hobby. There may be accessibility issues for people that might not be able to, you know, fork out that initial, you know, lump sum.
Investment.
Yeah, exactly, investment. For me personally, you know, I've kept my photography camera and my Astro camera both separate. I've managed to get another one because I wasn't prepared to Astro modify my photography one and, you know, potentially mess up, like you say, the use of one for the other. But yeah, I'd say if there are any accessibility issues, if you can't afford a camera, maybe speak to a local Astro group, a community nearby. A lot of the members are willing to help, and you know, if you're a member, they would possibly lend you some equipment as well. which obviously gives you a good idea of how things work. You can have a feel for it. You can test things out, and then it gives you the confidence to then maybe work towards that investment in future.
Yeah. So what would you give to people? I mean, do you have like specific websites? Because there was a few people that kind of gave out websites and they're from UK. Also, maybe there could be international websites that people can kind of buy. Maybe it's a first, like a brand new or maybe secondhand equipment also.
Yeah. So I usually get lenses and cameras and things. Oh, there it is. I might have to just check this. I think I got my camera from a website called simply Cheap Astrophotography. A gentleman named Juan, I believe, and he mostly does astro modified DSLRs, and yeah, that's where I bought mine from. He had some good reviews. I believe I saw people mentioning him beforehand, so I thought I'd go for it.
That's good. That's good. So that's what is the website? It's called Simply Cheap Astrophotography.
No, sorry. It was just called Cheap Astrophotography.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. So that's something for people to Google. I mean,
Yeah.
so, and one of the guests I will like will have very soon in the future that they're talking about taking astrophotography photos just with a phone. I mean, so I mean, we can go as low as probably possible with what we already have. Like, what would you recommend for people? Like, if let's say the budget is like super tight, they want to get involved with it, they like the work, they go on your Instagram channel, and it's like, oh my god, like I want to get involved with that. Like, what people should buy? Like, what is the most important? Is it the mount? Is it the scope? Like, where people should start with that?
Yeah, the mount is definitely the most important part of the setup. If you are on a budget, I know you could probably just get like a phone holder with a small tripod on the bottom just to hold it still. Set it in like night mode, or there are apps on the store for long exposures and noise reduction and things like that. Specifically for taking astro photos. But yeah, I mean, if you could stretch to it, I'd say a star tracker. Just then you can start taking longer and longer exposures. But if you are committed and you want to stick with the hobby, then people generally say to just a bigger initial investment. For example, I've got a HEQ5, a Skywatcher HEQ5 Pro, and to be honest, I think looking back, I mean, I've had it a couple of years now. I wish I'd gone for the EQ6R, belt drives, and all that sort of thing. It saves a lot of headache if you do plan on expanding into the hobby. As I feel like I'm having some issues, but yeah, if you were on a budget, I'd say definitely a star tracker first.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So can you talk about, so let's say for the people who maybe they already have a camera DSLR available, is there some specific like camera settings that that you can kind of use for astrophotography?
So depending on the camera, there's always a sweet spot on the ISO. I believe for the Canon 600D, it's 800 ISO. So I'd generally just leave that there. Don't touch that. Just leave it at 800, and then depending on the exposure that you need, just expand the. If you're using a lens, the aperture as low as possible, as wide open, as your lens can go, and then really it's up to your exposure time. Focal length depending. Try and get as long as possible. Obviously, with a star tracker, you can really push a few minutes on, maybe even longer. You see some people exposing for 5+ minutes on Star Adventurers guiding. It's impressive, yeah.
So can you explain people what is a star tracker that for the people who never heard it before?
Yeah, sure. So a star tracker is a small motorized unit where you mount a camera on top, and well, if you was to point it at the northern celestial pole, basically it counteracts the rotation of the Earth. So the Earth moves one way, your star tracker moves the other way, counteracting, and you just keep looking at that same point all night, basically, as obviously you go around. So that allows you to then expose without getting any star trails, and really pulling out any detail that's in there.
Yeah. Okay. So talking about getting those details. So first of all, for people to clear this out, and of course, if you're watching this those interviews on the channel, not for the first time, you probably heard people saying that actually the photos that you're gonna see on Instagram, let's say that I'm looking at the Pelican Nebula. I mean, it's not gonna be the way you're gonna see it through telescope, right?
No.
So we're talking a lot of kind of behind the scenes work. So can you talk about what you're currently using for, again, for stacking images and kind of post editing? And maybe you can explain what does a stacking mean?
Yeah, sure. So as you mentioned, what you see on Instagram is not what is going to come out in one frame. You'll get a very raw, noisy image. You'll see a few stars. You may even see, you might see some nebula in there. I use the L enhance, for example, so it cuts out a lot of light. But so in terms of software, I'm still using DSS, Deep Sky Stacker. That's I think it's a pretty staple choice, but there are other good choices out there. APP and PixInsight, but they're both paid. Deep Sky Stacker is free. So once you've put your lights, darks, and calibration frames and whatever in there, you'll get a well, again, you won't get a result out of there either. You'll have to then take it further, stretch the image. Sorry, if I could just go back, the stacking software, we used it because the more images you take and stack, it improves the signal to noise ratio. It improves simply put, it improves the quality of the image, reduces noise, makes things pop. So that is one of the reasons why you would want to stack as many images as possible. So once you've got your image out of Deep Sky Stacker, me personally, I'm using Photoshop with a number of plugins as well, including Topaz Denoise, which is an incredible piece of software.
That a lot of people mention. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So in Photoshop, just stretching curves and levels, and a number of action sets, as I mentioned, from some great astrophotographers as well. Really pulls out the detail, and then you can start to work on, all the details and the colors that you might want to work on, the brightness of stars. You could even remove them using StarNet, for example, and have quite a surreal or eerie looking starless version. There's so many options for editing and post-processing.
Yeah. So let's say if people never use the Photoshop, which of course, if you're of course watching or listening, if you're young enough, you probably did at some point for something maybe. But let's say if a person is in 35, 40s, maybe 50s, and now they're looking to get started, what is the quickest way and approach for them to use kind of post processing like software? Would you recommend kind of the easiest way would be Photoshop or PixInsight, or maybe there's even easier version? Because again, there's a lot of kind of softwares come up right now, and again, I don't know the names. Maybe you do kind of that when it comes to artificial intelligence, machine learning type of based, that kind of with a couple of clicks you kind of can do this work.
I'm not aware of any AI that we can click and go. I mean, I wish I wish I had that. That'd be pretty nice.
That's an idea for somebody, right?
Absolutely, yeah. But I mean, I've always used Photoshop, you know, because of having you know, doing the photography. I've always used Photoshop, so I can't say I've looked too much into other softwares. In terms of looking upwards, I think for me, I think I'd probably try PixInsight next. Everyone that's, you know, really doing, I mean, there's people doing amazing things on Photoshop, but a lot of the amazing things that you see online, Instagram or whatever, most people are using PixInsight. It just seems to be a very powerful tool, specifically catered for astrophotography. Yeah, but as you mentioned, if you're to look at a more accessible version, there are, I know there's GIMP is a free Photoshop alternative, but as far as I know, that's that's the only one, unfortunately. I'm not fully aware. Sorry.
Got it. No. That's perfectly fine. Like, you know, because like probably there is not kind of, you know, this machine learning type of based AI, you know, software for now that we can, with a couple of clicks, can, you know, have these photos that you can see on Brady's Instagram, at least for now. But again, maybe I'm sure it's something will come up, just like with Top Eyes Labs that you mentioned, kind of denoising softwares like that. So there probably something coming, you know. But at the same time, again, you mentioned one thing that you mentioned you're in Bortle 7 or Bortle 6?
6, yeah.
6. So, I mean, and we're talking, you know, because a lot of probably people who are watching right now, they're living these, you know, very high, you know, light polluted areas, probably in cities, because that's where we're stuck most of the time. And how people can tackle those problems. And can you talk about the filters and what type of filters people should use as well?
Yeah, so I think I should say that there's no real substitute for a dark sky. If you have dark skies, that is the best option. But if, like you said, a lot of people are living in cities and don't get a chance to get out to dark sites. For example, in England, it is, and the UK, it is hard to find these dark sites because it is quite a densely populated little island, much like a lot of Europe, I suppose. But yeah, in terms of filters, there's the two that I use is an Optilong L Pro and an Optilong L Enhance. I did get the L Enhance just before the L Extreme come out. Wasn't aware that it was coming out, but they're both amazing filters. I can't say that I've had the chance to use the L Pro yet, but the L Enhance I've used a number of times, and it is very impressive for diffuse nebula and that sort of thing. You know, to be fair, when you take a photo, you can't see too much data on your screen, but when you start stretching it, it's all just there, and it's really a really impressive filter to use if you are, like you said, people using in Bortle 9s and things like that. You know, a strong like L Extreme, if they're using an OSC or going narrowband, is certainly an option as well. But L Pros, an Optilong L Pro is generally a pretty good broadband filter for light pollution. Yeah. So if you're shooting galaxies or a reflection nebula, or you know, just dark nebulas, that sort of thing, I'd say an L Pro for someone in this Bortle range would be a great shout, and maybe even higher. I'm not sure the scale of where you could use it. I suppose that's up to everyone to try out, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. So again, from your personal work, because again, I'm sure that you have kind of your favorite photo, and of course, I would love for you to share what is that when it comes to, you know, photography itself, like your kind of best piece of, you know, work that you did. And do you have your kind of favorite right now with astrophotography? Is like, oh, that was like the biggest achievement so far?
See, I think it's tough. I'm definitely my biggest critic. I look at my photos and I'm thinking I could do this better, I could do that better. I'd say probably the coolest photo, the one that I enjoy, is one of mine from, I'm not saying it's a good image, but the one that I enjoy most is one of Markarian's chain, just because it's amazing to see just a cluster of galaxies. It just gives you that sense of just how small we are. You know, a photo of Andromeda is cool, but to see, you know, hundreds of little Andromedas all spaced together is something completely different. In terms of quality, maybe the Pelican Nebula or the Andromeda image that I've got, they're two that I'm generally pretty happy with. I think not, you know, not happy, but you know, as far as my skill set can go at the minute, they're all right, yeah. They're not too long exposures. I think both of them are about 2.5 hours, because, you know, since coming back in March, throughout summer, you don't really get a chance to expose for longer than 2 hours or even an hour sometimes, you know, with how short nights were throughout summer. But now that we're going into winter, we're certainly getting the chance to get some nice long exposures, long image sets.
Got it. So I mean, the ones that you mentioned, definitely, because again, as you can hear or see, yeah, Brady is definitely his biggest critic, you know, which I think, you know, you're doing an awesome job, of course, and people can go and see and, you know, see yourself and, you know, comment below on his posts and, you know, let him know and, you know, text him personally what you think about his work, which I think is really awesome. So, I mean, is there any future projects? Because now we're talking about longer nights and hopefully less cloudy skies. That you can do some, you know, future projects. So, do you have anything coming up that you want to share as well?
Yeah. So I'd really love the chance to start using the L Pro for galaxies. I'd love to use. I'd love to get more into galaxies. You know, I've only pretty much got Markarian's chain and Andromeda on there. But one such galaxy would probably be M106. It looks crazy. I've seen some amazing photos. Since I've just recently gone from the 600D to the ASI 533 MC, another one-shot color camera, but you know, it's a called Astro camera, and the smaller sensor just gives me a bit more reach. So framing these galaxies, you know, M106 and you know, there's a lot of great framing from this camera with my scope at the minute for a lot of galaxies. So I know it's not the right, you know, I should probably be using these long nights maybe for certain nebulas that are coming up. You know, Orion's coming up and the Flaming Star and the tadpoles and things like that. But yeah, I want to get stuck into some galaxies.
Yeah, and I love that you said that because yeah, exactly. For the people who are looking to get started, I think would you recommend kind of, okay, if you see everybody else kind of, you know, going and shooting the Orion Nebula, whatever the, you know, whatever the kind of popular, let's say, thing is, you know, it's good. At the same time, you're like, no, like I want to go and shoot the galaxies, you know, like you know, M106, like, and just do whatever you want, right? Because you don't have to follow. And when it comes to post editing as well, again, it's like a little bit of an art as well, because the way it will come out, if it's the same nebula or same galaxy, it could look a little bit different, right? Because of your personal kind of preferences.
Absolutely. To this hobby does allow you a lot of freedom, a lot of creative expression. You can really start once you've got to grips with, you know, what you're doing, you can then start to expand and really start enjoying yourself. But I won't take it away from anyone shooting these places, you know, Orion and things like that, because they're beautiful objects, and you can always improve your skill set, compare it to others, maybe compare your version to others, get feedback, and because of, say, Orion being one of the most photographed objects in the sky, it does give you a pretty good benchmark to either see one to work towards or know where you are on your abilities, maybe. Make you feel comfortable in what you're what you're able to do. And that being said, Orion isn't. I wouldn't even say it's one of the easiest targets to shoot well, considering its core is so bright. It's really easy to blow out. So, it's not just a simple point and shoot and take your photos and stack. It's there's still a lot of learning in terms of like HDR, different lengths of exposure time. Yeah, there's different ways you can go about Orion. So you shouldn't rule any object out, I'd say.
Got it. Got it. Good advice. So again, so talking about you again shooting the galaxies, and now you, as you see, you get this perspective as like, whoa, we're so kind of small, somewhere in our Milky Way galaxy, and there's all these surrounding galaxies, and there's far more things behind that. I mean, we're talking of billions and billions of them. So on that note, I'm sure you get asked that question, about kind of extraterrestrial lives and, things happening on other galaxies. So what is a personal take? Do you believe there's something on a maybe, kind of microbial level, or maybe more advanced?
I'd say that that there is definitely life elsewhere in the universe. I think it would be pretty naive to think that there wasn't. I mean, life is rare. Let's get that straight. But there's trillions and trillions and trillions of stars, a lot of which will have planetary systems. It will just so happen that it doesn't have to form the way our life did. We can show that because at the bottom of our ocean, there's life forms surviving off methane gas vents. Which are pretty common elsewhere in the solar system. I think Titan, that has liquid methane, does it? So that's completely possible. Enceladus as well, which has, I think they've said that that's got the building blocks. When the sun hits it, a lot of the water vapor comes out into space, and Cassini flew through it and analyzed its water vapors and found organics. So that's organics is the start, isn't it? The building blocks. So I'd say it's definitely possible. I wouldn't rule anything out.
Maybe there could be some fancy sushi that we can get from those waters, deep over there. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. But so there is definitely a possibility, because now there was some intention going to Venus and Sulfine, and now they're talking now there's not there, but of course they're planning to do some missions there and check that out. And of course moons of the Titan, the Titan, and Europa, and I mean just in our solar system there could be something. And again, of course, obvious one is like Mars. Was there something there too? And now we'll have a mission kind of to go there and build the colony, just like on the moon as well. So what is your personal kind of, do you how much attention do you pay what is happening in let's say different industries across the board in space science and space technology? And maybe you would like to share some of the like future projects that are coming up shortly as well.
Yeah, sure. So I generally see probably most of the mainstream news on space. What SpaceX is doing, for example, they're in the news a lot because they're making leaps and bounds in reusable and really bringing that price down for space travel. So they're great to look at, because Elon Musk isn't a man that he'll just say what he wants to do and just put the wheels in motion. So, I'd say that SpaceX is definitely one to look at. Future missions to Venus or to the moon and to Mars as well. I know Elon Musk, I think he's been talking about the different habitats or what they would be like on Mars. Obviously, you'd have to be protected because there's no atmosphere just yet. But I think he has stated in the past that it would require
nuke it.
He said nuke it, which would be the fastest way to create like a magnetic sphere or like a big thick atmosphere. doesn't sound like the best option, but you know, he's
Yeah.
designing rockets and I'm not. So
Yeah, so we just go with him. Yeah,
yeah.
okay, sounds good, Elon. Let's do that. Yeah, so of course, and we had previously here in the show, as you know, guys and girls, some guests that worked on Mars colonization and moon base projects as well. So those are episodes that are available. So go and check them out. And yeah, I mean, it's great because we were looking towards that, and I think it should be done not because like, oh, we need to go and explore the planet, and you know, it's like colonizing, and it's like supposed to be very like, you know, like it's just cool, you know. We should go and do this stuff because it's cool, you know. And hopefully at some point technology is going to be here, and our personal understanding of what's happening in the universe will be there at the same time, aligned with the technology, and we can go and do these things and travel interstellar dimensions, you know, and make things happen. So hopefully so again, a few questions that I have personally for you is like for people who are watching and listening, they think it like, yeah, it's cool, it's awesome. I love the photos that I can see on your Instagram. I mean, it's super nice, but like I still don't know, like, why should I get involved with astrophotography or just space exploration in general? Like, would you tell why would what would you tell those people? Why should get started?
Astrophotography is one of those things that a lot of people, if you're passionate, you wouldn't ask, it would just grab you. You see these images and you are just amazed, and you just have that feeling like, I've got to do this, I've got to work on this, I've got to learn more about it. It's one of those things that has grabbed me, and it's one of the things that I'm truly passionate about. And you know, when you are truly passionate about something, you sometimes you don't ask, you know, why, because it's just a feeling that you have. You know why. Your body knows why. You will just do it. But if I had to say why someone should get involved, you know, there's an endless world to explore. There's an endless way to recreate it through your own creativity. It's a technical hobby as well. If you like working with your hands or with computers and that sort of thing, it's a great supportive community. I get to speak to a lot of other great astrophotographers, ask their opinions on how they achieve certain results, or you know, their views on processing what they believe to be you know, the correct way, or you know, or even the Mavericks just creating what they want, and it's amazing to see people break away from that pack as well. So creativity is definitely a massive boost. If you are, say, maybe a photographer, even maybe technically minded and creative, these things, they all just merge perfectly into astrophotography.
Awesome. And of course, there's more and more reasons why somebody should get involved, you know, because
Absolutely.
as we begin the conversation, you know, things when it comes to space exploration, things are just starting, and it looks like we're back at it, and there's a lot of different projects are happening again about, you know, private companies, space agencies across the globe. So things are looking very exciting. So again, for your personal kind of journey, I mean, what you currently accomplished is awesome. I mean, you're providing this great personal work, and I mean, you're networking with people. I'm sure giving a lot of people advice. So if you still have any questions, guys and girls, you want to ask, you know, Brady, make sure to get in contact with him personal on Instagram or any of the social media channels that are going to be linked in the show notes, and ask those questions. Maybe because I'm sure I didn't ask everything that you want to personally know. So make those connections, of course. So the last question is, again, besides doing all this awesome work, is there some sort of a legacy or personal footprint that you want to leave behind you as well?
Absolutely. I would I'd love to be known. I'd love to be I'd love to leave a legacy. I mean, you know, it would be great for people to recognize your work, or for you to see things that other people haven't seen, but then you can share. Yeah, there's something really special about sharing things to people that haven't seen it, for example. I think that's probably a great. It's one of my favorite things, especially taking a photo of something and being able to show my friends like, look at this. But yeah, just to be known would be nice. But obviously, astrophotography is a journey, not an end goal. You're always learning, and yeah, just to enjoy the journey would be nice as well.
Exactly. So as far as I see right now, I mean, it looks like you're enjoying the journey. And by the way, Brady, comment below if you think that Brady looks like someone that you've seen before. Is like, did I see you somewhere? Are you from some TV show or something? He looks like famous a little bit right now. So here you go. So there's a little bit of that going already. So no, that is definitely awesome. Like, I love the fact that you're putting your time and effort kind of to learn, because there's a lot, and you're putting your money up front, making those investments, buying equipment, and you're teaching people by, again, doing all the work, post editing, stacking. I mean, there's a lot of behind the scenes, and you're uploading these photos. So I mean, we're talking, even sometimes it's small, like we see the Instagram post, we don't understand how much time, effort, hours it took to make something like that. So at least if you go and follow Brady again on Instagram, comment on his posts and let him know that his work is awesome, which is definitely is. And make sure again to make those connections. So guys and girls, before we're gonna go, as always, I want to ask you one thing. As you probably know, if you share this episode with a friend of yours, could be any friend, doesn't matter, favorite, you hate the person, look, don't matter, share this episode with him, because there will be a lot of great tips, strategies, inspiration, why that person should get involved with astrophotography, space exploration, explore more, do more, everything related to space exploration and great things. So Brady, again, for you personally, big thank you for coming up today and sharing your personal journey, passion, why, and how people should get involved with astrophotography. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Martinez.
Thank you. So guys and girls, thank you again for watching. Make sure to go and follow Brady on Instagram, FinStargram1. And of course, that link with the rest is going to be in the show notes below. And as always, I'll see you next time. And don't forget, keep exploring.